is Tennessee Senator, member of the Senate Armed Services, Commerce, Judiciary, and Veterans Affairs Committees, Marsha Blackburn. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. What do you make of the vice president's trip?
I think the vice president should head to the southern border first and talk to the Border Patrol, talk to the ICE agent, talk to the local sheriffs and law enforcement officers and say, hey, you know what? I think we made a mistake. We need to implement the Remain in Mexico that President Trump had so that we can calm this situation down. They have apprehended over 500,000 illegal immigrants. That does not count the gotaways. So she needs to see that crisis and understand that first before she goes to Guatemala, because we know that the Guatemalan business community does not trust her agenda. So I don't know how she's going to secure investment for the region.
Well, we already got new numbers for the month of May, 172,000 apprehensions, 48,000 known gotaways, on top of triple-digit numbers for the several months before this. This is not lessening anytime soon, Senator, and yet there's no money in the budget for Homeland Security. It doesn't look like there's any money for defense spending either, even as the threats around us continue to rise.
It is amazing what they are doing in pushing this leftist socialist agenda. This budget that they are rolling out is really a budget to move us to a socialist nation, to a socialist economy, because you're not putting the money where the needs are. And when you talk about great power competition and what we're facing on the global stage, when you look at the pressure we have in the cyberspace from both Russia and China, DOD needs to be focused on that. They need the money for great power competition. When you even look at infrastructure, real infrastructure, roads and bridges and ports and airports and broadband expansion, they're not putting money into that. They're putting money into a Democratic Party infrastructure by paying off all of their unions and trying to run the tax rate up on corporate America and small businesses to pay for their wish list. This is when inflation is rising. It is when our employment numbers are not in a good place, and they're just taking all the wrong steps as if they're doing it intentionally.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to the Biden agenda in a second. I want to get your take on whether or not he's going to be able to get this through. But let me turn to the COVID and to the China situation. We've got the Fauci Facebook files and the censorship and potential collusion between Fauci and Facebook, following the release of his emails from the early days of the pandemic. There are serious questions regarding how much he knew and whether or not the virus was man-made in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. There's a good op-ed in the Journal this morning saying that if you just look at the science, the genetic makeup of COVID-19, we can see, these two scientists wrote, that it was man-made, Senator. Your thoughts on these emails between Fauci and Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, where they're talking about what to say. This information hub basically ended up censoring key information about the potential for a man-made virus. I mean, look, we've got the timeline right here. In March of 2020, Zuckerberg emails Fauci saying, how can we help? We want to be part of this. We want you to be part of our information hub. And then on April 16th, Facebook says it's going to take steps to combat COVID-19 misinformation. And that means they're going to take down any posts that says that the virus was in a lab, escaped from the lab. Facebook announced it's continuing to remove more false claims. And then they say you can't say anything about hydroxychloroquine as a treatment because Trump said it worked. And then, of course, the email dump is released on May 25th. exposing Fauci and talking to Mark Zuckerberg, so Facebook changes its policy and says, oh, no, forget it. We won't remove anything, any posts that say COVID-19 may have been man-made. I mean, what is going on here? Is this collusion?
Well, what we do know is that definitely Dr. Fauci and Mark Zuckerberg were in cahoots on this, and it certainly deserves a look and an investigation from Congress. What we also know is that Dr. Fauci was running a PR campaign. He was not giving the American people accurate scientific information. He was cherry picking different facts to help him in a PR campaign. So maybe he should leave his post and go work for an ad agency to try to do PR campaigns. But Maria, this is despicable. Now, what we know from the Biden administration is they do not plan to hold Carlos Fauci to account for what he has done and how he cherry-picked this information and was on every different side of the issue, depending on how it fit his narrative at that time. And that is wrong.
Yeah,
this is a bureaucrat that has so deep, he cannot get out of it.
Yeah, it's a real flip-flop when you look at that Senate hearing. He certainly misled the American people by saying to Rand Paul, you're absolutely wrong. And then a week later, he's got to say, well, no, we actually did coordinate with Chinese scientists. Look, let me get to the Biden agenda because the Senate is going to be. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, here's the thing. Why would we be putting U.S. taxpayer dollars into a lab that is managed and run by the Chinese Communist Party? Now, that is wrong.
Outrageous.
Why would we be participating in gain-of-function research? And one of the things that makes it so egregious is the Biden administration is not going to hold China to account for this because they do not want to be perceived as being culturally insensitive. They are not going to hold Fauci to account for this or fire him or put him on leave because then they have to admit that they were wrong. This is atrocious. And the fact that this has been carried out with taxpayer dollars and has cost millions of lives, absolutely. We need to be all over this.
Do you want to see a 9/11 commission to study this? I mean, how are we going to get to the bottom of it? Because we don't know why Biden is not holding China accountable. I mean, it could be that the Biden administration is just conflicted, that they've taken money from the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, we know Hunter Biden has.
Right. We need to do our job. The House and the Senate have standing committees, and at Commerce, Science, and Transportation, absolutely, we should be taking this up. You better believe we should. There are other standing committees that need to be taking this up. The fact that a government employee, the highest paid government employee, being paid by the taxpayers, would have done this and would have intentionally or purposefully altered or cherry-picked information in order to choose what they tell people. Do they think the American people are not smart enough to figure this out sooner or later?
Well, I mean, we talk about China so much, and the idea that we're funding research in a Chinese lab is just so outrageous, knowing the CCP's motives. In that regard, the Senate is going to take up the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act this week. It includes billions of dollars to semiconductor manufacturing, a ban on American officials attending the 2022 Beijing Olympics, a range of provisions in an effort to strengthen military alliances in the Pacific. Senator, will this bill go through? Tell us the fate of this China bill that you guys are debating this week.
I don't know if this bill is going to go through or not. When it started as the Endless Frontier Act to focus on science, we had it in a pretty good place at Commerce Committee. But now it has had the Chuck Schumer ballooning, and it's another big spending bill.
Oh, I see. Okay, Senator, we'll be watching that. Will he get his plans through, by the way, or no? Because Manchin said he's not on board.
I don't know if he's going to get it through.
All right. Senator, good to see you this morning. Thank you so much. Marsha Blackburn, we'll be right back.